Fan service is a term that gets thrown around a lot, not just in Star Wars, but any fandom. Usually it seems like people talk about it as if it's a bad thing all the time, no matter the context, but I don't think fan service is inherently good or bad. It's basically just a thing, a character, or an event, or a location, something that fans of a given property will recognize and appreciate. Star Wars has had plenty of fan service in recent years, but the past couple weeks I've been very impressed with the way the Book of Boba Fett has handled it, because a show about Boba Fett seems like fan service at its core. But man, Jon Favreau is pulling it off, so today I want to talk about how he gets it right. First, I want to talk about how fan service can go wrong, and I'll point out some good and bad examples from a movie that I like quite a bit, Rogue One. Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan on Jedha? Bad. The Ghost appearing at Yavin and Scarif? Good. C-3PO and R2-D2's quick little scene? Bad. Red and Gold Squadron showing up? Great. So what is it that makes some of these moments work but not others? I think it comes down to restraint. I love the Ghost appearing because it's never really central to any shot, but even if it were, it's just a ship. It rewards the fans of Star Wars Rebels, but it doesn't push things so far that anyone who had never seen the show would be confused about why we kept seeing that one ship over and over. The two examples I dislike are way too in your face. Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan are not part of the story. They bump into Jyn and they quite literally take the movie off track. Everything stops to focus on them, just so the filmmakers can go, hey, remember these guys? Do ya? Do ya? I feel the same way about the R2 and 3PO moment. We're gearing up to jump into one of the biggest and best space battles we've ever seen in Star Wars, and everything grinds to a halt to let 3PO have a little moment. I'm so not opposed to 3PO appearing in Rogue One, it makes complete sense for him to be around, but I wish they had shown some restraint. I would have loved it if at the end of the movie, as the Tantive 4 were escaping, Captain Antilles is taking the plans to Leia, and he could have just walked by the droids. That's it. They're there on the ship. Maybe 3PO gets a flustered line or something, but I think it would have worked better in the background. There's a reason people started calling things like that Easter eggs. It's because you have to put in at least a little effort to find them, and then when you do, you're rewarded. But after those two examples, why do I enjoy the movie taking time out to introduce Red and Gold leaders during the battle? Because that felt natural. The movie didn't stop to say, remember? It included them as part of the familiar flow of a space battle where the pilots or the squadron leaders check in. It never lingers on them. The movie gives them their quick piece, and then we're off. It doesn't feel like anyone asking us if we remember them. It's treated more like, of course you remember them, and if you don't, no big deal. You don't have to recognize them from A New Hope to understand what's happening. And I think that's the key thing when introducing fan service. Lingering on Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan or C-3PO or R2-D2 makes them become a moment. I think it's a safe assumption that nearly everyone would recognize the droids, but not everyone is gonna recognize two scumbags from the cantina, because I had people in the theater asking me who they were. That's not good. You don't ever want to confuse your audience or make someone feel bad for not picking up on some detail that isn't even important to the story being told. And that's where the Book of Boba Fett is crushing it for me, because this show has fan service galore, but it's doing it in such a way that it doesn't make anyone feel left out. The show introduces a character like Black Chrysanthemum, and it's more like an invitation instead of a confusing closed door. A big scary-looking Wookiee walks into frame and mean mugs Boba Fett, and everyone knows everything they need to know about that character. Those of us who have read the comics feel rewarded and we're excited, but fans who have just seen the movies and The Mandalorian haven't been left behind at all. They can find out after the fact that it's an existing character, and maybe then they want to read the comics. They pulled off something similar with the Tashi Station scenes. Boba Fett goes to beat up a swoop gang and steal their bikes, inadvertently rescuing a handful of innocent patrons. To the casual fan, that's a random bar full of random people. But to anyone who has seen the deleted scenes from A New Hope, we know Tashi Station, and we know Fixer and Cammy. It changes absolutely nothing else about the scene. Me knowing who Fixer is adds nothing, and it takes nothing away from the people who don't know who Fixer is. I feel rewarded, but they are blissfully ignorant. The fan service of those moments is treated like the icing on the cake, not the cake itself. But the Book of Boba Fett will often take its fan service even further. The series begins by showing us how Boba escapes the Sarlacc pit. On the one hand, that is completely expected. How could you do this series and not show that? On the other hand, it's something fans like me have wanted to see since the 90s when I first read about his escape. So I do consider that to be a fan service moment. I liked that they didn't make a huge, epic deal out of it. He's got armor and gadgets, he gets out, he survives, let's move on. But they've revisited the Sarlacc through visions, and they've tied it all into this show's themes of rebirth and reinvention. Everything with the Tusken Raiders has been much more impactful than I ever thought it could be. Getting to see their more spiritual side has been thrilling, with their lizard hallucinations, their vision quests, the creation of the gaffy sticks. I've loved all that, getting to see a new perspective on something familiar. That's another thing I think this series does well. It knows that if it's going to show us something we've seen before, we should learn something new about it. Like with the Rancor, Boba Fett takes over Jabba's palace and they open the Rancor pit, and even though we know the Rancor is dead, I got all excited to see one. But the pit is empty. Oh well, that makes sense. And then an episode later we get to see a Rancor, and they're suggesting Boba wants to learn to ride the thing. That all sounds like goofy fan service stuff, but they're incorporating it into the show so well that it feels natural. Like, of course he's gonna ride a Rancor. It would be a huge personal success for him to achieve that, a great symbol of his reinvention. I want to point out that the Book of Boba Fett isn't the only Star Wars property to successfully pull off fan service. Plenty of stories have. But I've seen some people belaboring the fan service on this series and acting like it's all nostalgia and nothing more. And I couldn't disagree more. There is nostalgia, yes, but it's nostalgia that makes sense for the story, isn't distracting for new fans, and is thematically relevant to the story being told and Boba Fett's character arc. I was iffy about the series when I saw the first episode, but the second one sold me. I better understood what the series was about, and I had adjusted from my own expectations of what I thought the series would be. The consensus seemed to be that Chapter 2 was far superior to Chapter 1. And then I saw a lot of people turn on Episode 3 because they didn't like the scooters. Meanwhile, I'm over here obsessing over the Rancor and how it relates to Boba. I don't know if the next 4 episodes will hold up, but I am on board for the ride. I'm having a blast watching Boba Fett reinvent himself among so many fun and familiar Star Wars characters, creatures, and locations. And I just wanted to celebrate how the Book of Boba Fett has been able to throw the Sarlacc escape, Tusken Raiders, the Hutts, Black Chrysanthemum, the Pike Syndicate, Tashi Station, a Rancor, and more into the first 3 episodes without any of it feeling unnatural or out of place. But what do you think? Is the series going overboard with its fan service, or are you enjoying it? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our Book of Boba Fett coverage, and consider checking out our Patreon page for even more. We're releasing video reactions and audio commentaries for every episode as they release. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.